He walked into prison looking like prey, but left the yard with the king at his feet. What would you do if your worst nightmare wore a smile and walked right into hell like he didn't belong there? That's exactly what happened the day Marcus Lee stepped into Green Rock Penitentiary, a place that chewed up grown men and spat out their bones. He wasn't big. He wasn't loud. He didn't come in swinging or shouting. No, Marcus walked in like a ghost, quiet, calm, eyes scanning everything. A skinny man with soft hands and a still face. Too clean, too polite. In a place like Green Rock, that's the kind of man who disappears fast, or worse, becomes someone's plaything. The guards barely noticed him. Just another number. Just another body going into the pit. The inmates, though? They watched. Especially one. A mountain of a man named Tank, the undisputed king of the yard. Tank had a rule. Every newcomer must kneel. Not metaphorically, literally. You step into Green Rock, you either kiss his boot or eat it. No exceptions. Tank stood with his crew near the gates, leaning against the wall like a lion watching a deer stumble into the savannah. When Marcus passed by without a glance, something changed in Tank's eyes. Amusement, then offense. "Hey, new fish," Tank called out. His voice echoed down the concrete hall like thunder. Marcus stopped. Tank stepped forward, towering over him, smiling that wicked smile. "You forgot the welcome ritual." The other inmates chuckled. The guards didn't move. They never did. These little introductions were part of the ecosystem, but Marcus just looked at him. Not scared, not angry, just still. "Get on your knees, princess. Let's make this simple," Tank growled, now nose to nose. Marcus said nothing, just blinked, like a man who had seen storms much darker than this one. "You deaf, boy?" Tank shoved him hard in the chest. Marcus stumbled back, but stayed upright. Didn't fight, didn't flinch. The laughter grew louder. A crowd was forming. Tank spat on the ground. "Guess we'll have to teach you the rules the hard way." And as Marcus was led down to his cell, bruised but still silent, the whole prison already knew. The new guy was a dead man walking. But what no one knew, what not a single soul in Green Rock realized, was that Marcus Lee had spent the last 20 years turning his body into a weapon. A calm, quiet, invisible weapon. And the storm was only beginning. Green Rock wasn't just a prison. It was a jungle of concrete and rage, where survival wasn't about strength. It was about submission. And Tank? Tank was the lion, the alpha, the warlord of the yard. His word was law. His fists were gospel. No one crossed him and lived to talk about it, not without a few teeth missing. He had his crew, too. A pack of muscle-bound predators who called themselves the Chain. Each one wore a silver link around their neck like a badge of belonging. They weren't just bullies. They ran the trade, drugs, contraband, even information. The guards turned a blind eye because Tank kept the population in check. Fewer riots, fewer bodies. And now, there was Marcus. In the chow hall, he sat alone. No one joined him. No one talked to him. He ate slowly, eyes never lifting from his tray, like he was invisible. But invisibility in a place like Green Rock didn't protect you. That painted a target on your back. Tank watched him from across the room, legs spread wide, biting into a turkey sandwich like it was a piece of prey. "Look at him," he said to his crew, "still thinking he's better than us." Rico, Tank's second in command, chuckled. "Maybe he's just stupid." "No," Tank replied, licking mayo off his thumb. "He's something else. And I don't like it." Later that night in the common area, Marcus was reading a tattered book. Something old, maybe poetry, maybe philosophy. The kind of thing no one read here. Tank made his move. "Hey, princess," he barked, grabbing the book and tossing it across the floor. "You think this is book club? You want to read? Read this." Then he slammed a tray into Marcus's chest. The room froze. Even the guards turned to look. It was the kind of moment that could turn explosive in seconds, but Marcus didn't flinch. He picked up the book, slowly, calmly, no anger in his face, just silence. That silence did something to Tank. It exposed him, made him feel small, and that made him dangerous. "You're not special, boy," Tank sneered. "You don't talk, you don't fight. For you don't matter." Marcus looked up then, for the first time, and what Tank saw in those eyes, that cold, empty stillness, shook something inside him. Not fear, not yet, but the first crack in his certainty. Rico leaned in. "You want me to take care of him?" Tank nodded. "Tomorrow, we'll welcome him the real way." What no one noticed was that Marcus had memorized every face, every gesture, every weak spot, not out of fear but out of strategy. Because Marcus didn't need to start a war, he just needed to finish one. Morning came heavy with fog, the kind that wrapped around the prison yard like a shroud, muting the sounds of metal and men. Marcus stepped into the cold with the others, wearing the same grey jumpsuit, the same blank expression, but he knew today was different. Tank's crew was already waiting. You could feel it in the way they stood. Too casual, too still. A circle had formed near the weight benches, a stage, a trap. Rico approached first. "Tank wants to see you," he said flatly, chewing a toothpick like it was gum. Marcus looked at him, then walked without a word. The others followed like vultures waiting for the kill. They surrounded him behind the bleachers, out of sight of the tower guards. Not that it mattered. The guards saw everything and did nothing. In Green Rock, justice was handled internally. Tank cracked his knuckles. "You had your chance to play nice, but I guess you need a proper welcome." Then came the first punch, Rico from the side. Hard, fast, aiming for Marcus's ribs. Marcus didn't block it. He absorbed it, grunted softly. Another punch came, this time from behind, a sucker hit. He stumbled forward, knees buckling, hands bracing against the dirt. The laughter echoed. Tank stepped forward, towering over him. "What now, huh? Still want to be the quiet man? Still want to act like you're better than us?" Marcus coughed. Blood touched his lip. He wiped it gently with the back of his hand. But when he looked up, those eyes weren't full of pain, they were calculating. Not broken, focused, that scared Rico. Just a flicker, but it was there. Tank leaned in close. "Say something," he hissed. "Beg," Marcus whispered. "Not yet." Tank blinked. "What?" But before he could react, Marcus stood. Not fast, not dramatic, just rose. Even after the beating, his spine straightened like a man brushing off dust. He walked away. Didn't run, didn't flinch, just walked. And every eye in that yard followed him. Confused, amused, unsettled. Rico spat on the ground. "Next time, we do it right. Make it messy." Tank didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on Marcus's back. Something in him, some primal instinct, told him this wasn't over. He was right, because Marcus wasn't staying quiet much longer. He was waiting for the moment to strike back, not with noise, but with devastation. Long before Green Rock, long before the steel doors and dead-eyed guards, Marcus Lee had a different name. In another life, people called him Little Dragon. He had grown up on the south side of Chicago, in a cramped apartment above a Chinese takeout joint, raised by a grandfather who barely spoke English, but whose hands told stories. Stories through movement, through discipline, through pain. Grandmaster Liu didn't raise a boy, he forged a warrior. Every morning before school, Marcus trained barefoot in the alley behind the shop. Wooden dummy, cold concrete, sweat, bruises, no excuses. His grandfather's philosophy was simple. You do not strike unless it is the only option, but when you do, you end it. By 16, Marcus had won state-level martial arts championships under fake names. By 18, he had offers from top schools, not for academics, but to teach, to lead. He refused all of them. He didn't want fame, he wanted peace. But peace never wanted him. The night that changed everything was cold and wet, a robbery gone wrong. Marcus had just closed the shop when he saw two men beating a teenage girl outside the alley. They were armed. He didn't hesitate. They ended up in the hospital. He ended up in court. Self-defense? The DA didn't see it that way. One of the attackers had powerful family ties. The case was twisted, the narrative rewritten. Marcus became the aggressor, the trained killer. His silence in court, his refusal to grovel, to lie, sealed his fate. 10 years. Green Rock Penitentiary. The day he was sentenced, his grandfather died. By a stroke. Alone in that apartment. No one even came to claim the body. Marcus entered prison with a soul full of ghosts and a promise burned into his bones. Never fight unless you have no choice. And yet, back in the present, he stood alone in the prison chapel, staring at a faded cross, unmoving. The place was empty. Echoes filled the wooden walls. Tank's laughter had stopped echoing in his head. Now it was his grandfather's voice he heard. "You must be the storm they never saw coming." Marcus closed his eyes. Soon, very soon, the storm would begin. It started in the laundry room, a place where whispers lived, where machines roared loud enough to drown out screams, and guards rarely walked in unless there was smoke or blood. Marcus was sorting uniforms, folding with the same care he'd used every day since arriving. Precise, quiet, invisible. But the door creaked, and the smell of danger walked in. Rico, flanked by two of Tank's other dogs, Mac and Leon. Thick, stupid muscle. The kind that didn't think twice before swinging. "Time's up, Kung Fu Barbie," Rico grinned, snapping his gloves on. "Boss said we break your hands. See how you fold shirts then." Marcus didn't move, didn't even look up. That silence again. The same silence that had started to haunt them. Leon grabbed the back of Marcus's jumpsuit. "Didn't you hear him?" In a blink, the silence snapped. Marcus moved, not like a man, like something else. His body coiled, then struck, fluid, efficient, terrifying. A single pivot, elbow to Leon's jaw. Crack. The man dropped like a stone, eyes already rolling back. Rico shouted and lunged, but Marcus spun low, sweeping his legs. Rico fell hard, spine smacking tile, breath gone. Mac reached for a pipe. Too late. Marcus closed the distance, 1, 2, 3 strikes, throat, solar plexus, knee. Mac crumpled, choking on pain. It was over in less than 10 seconds. The hum of the machines returned. 3 bodies groaned on the ground. Marcus stood above them, untouched, barely breathing hard. He bent down, picked up the towel he had dropped, and calmly resumed folding. When Rico finally stumbled out, bruised, bleeding, furious, the story spread through Green Rock like wildfire. The quiet guy just dropped 3 of Tank's boys in the laundry. Didn't even break a sweat. I heard he used to be some kind of assassin. The rumors got wilder by the hour. Some said he was ex-military. Others whispered CIA. Some believed he was trained by monks in the mountains of China. But none of it mattered. What mattered was this. The fear was no longer one-sided. And Tank? Tank was furious. That same afternoon he threw a weight through the gym mirror and swore vengeance. "No more warnings," he growled. "Next time, we end him." But Marcus wasn't hiding anymore. He was waiting, and this time he wasn't folding clothes. He was folding destiny. Green Rock had changed. It was subtle at first. The way men moved in the yard, the way conversations paused when Marcus walked by. He didn't seek attention. He didn't brag. But the whispers followed him like shadows. Inmates nodded respectfully. Some gave him space. A few asked quiet questions, always beginning with the same breathless curiosity. "Is it true?" Marcus never answered. But the bruises on Rico's neck, the limp in Mac's step, the silence from Tank's crew, those were answers enough. Even the guards noticed. "Who the hell is this guy?" Officer Durant muttered to his partner during a shift change. "Doesn't matter. He's not making trouble. Not yet." Tank, though, he didn't deal in patience. He hadn't ruled this place by being ignored. For the first time in years, he was the one being watched. His throne, the weight bench, the corner table in the mess hall, the center cell in C block, suddenly felt less solid. He could feel the ground shifting under his boots, and he hated it. One night in his cell, he stared at the mirror and whispered to himself, "You let one ant crawl across your plate, next thing you know, you're eating bugs." The next morning, he sent a message. 4 men, kitchen hallway, no witnesses. They waited, blades hidden, nerves high. Marcus walked in carrying 2 buckets of dishwater. They moved fast, but he moved faster. The first man lunged. Marcus ducked, spun, and drove an elbow so hard into his gut he dropped without air. Second came with a knife. Marcus caught the wrist, twisted. The snap echoed louder than the scream. Blade clattered to the floor. Third and fourth, he didn't give them a chance. 2 kicks, perfectly placed. 1 in the chest, 1 in the knee. 4 bodies on the floor. Marcus didn't say a word, just turned to the sink and kept working. Later that day, a new rule was whispered across the yard. Don't mess with the quiet one. Even the guards stopped testing him. Officer Durant, passing Marcus in the corridor, paused, looked him in the eye. "You could rule this place if you wanted." Marcus didn't blink. "I don't want a throne, just peace." But Green Rock didn't offer peace, only power. And in the shadows of C Block, Tank was sharpening a shiv, breathing heavy, lips curled in a grin. "Yard, tomorrow. We finish this." The prison buzzed. No lockdown. No guards interfering. Everyone knew what was coming, not a fight, a war. The yard was silent before the storm. No weights clanked, no basketballs bounced, no laughter. Just the soft crunch of boots against gravel, as inmates gathered in a wide, loose circle, eyes wide, mouths dry. Even the sky looked different, grey and heavy, like it too was waiting for something to break. Marcus stood at the edge of the yard, still, as always, calm, controlled, but his eyes burned now, not with rage, but with absolute clarity. Tank stepped into the circle like a gladiator returning to his arena, shirtless, sweating, breathing through his nose like a bull. His arms were wrapped in gauze, not for protection, but for effect. Blood would show better that way. "Last chance, pretty boy," Tank growled. "Get on your knees." Marcus didn't move, didn't blink, didn't speak. That silence, again, drove Tank into a fury. With a roar, he charged. The crowd leaned forward. The first blow came fast, a right hook that could have broken ribs, but Marcus slipped it like wind past a mountain. The second punch, a wild uppercut, missed. Tank grunted in frustration. Marcus struck, a palm to the chest, a quick snapping kick to the thigh. Tank stumbled. The crowd gasped. He came again, furious now, swinging like a bear, desperate to crush, not fight. Marcus weaved, struck, dodged, a dance of precision. Elbow to the jaw, knee to the ribs, a sweep. Tank dropped to one knee. "Get up!" someone shouted. But Marcus waited. Tank rose, red-faced, panting, bleeding from the nose. He pulled a shiv from his waistband. The crowd backed away. Even the guards didn't move. Time slowed. Tank lunged. Marcus flowed. One strike to the wrist, crack, the blade flew. A spinning kick to the side of the head. Tank crashed to the ground. Silence. Utter, complete silence. Marcus stood over him, breathing steady, eyes unreadable. He didn't gloat, didn't roar. He simply looked down and said, voice quiet as snowfall, "You never deserved the throne. You ruled with fear. I walk with peace." Then he walked away, left Tank lying in the dirt, broken, humiliated. The king dethroned not by violence, but by discipline, by something bigger, something earned. As Marcus passed the line of watching inmates, heads bowed in silent respect. Not fear, honor. Green Rock had a new order now, and its leader didn't need a gang. He only needed himself. The yard returned to noise in the days that followed, but it was a different kind of noise. No laughter at another man's pain, no barked orders from Tank's wolves, no forced silence from fear. Instead, there was space, order, even peace. Marcus walked the halls like a shadow people chose to respect, not because he demanded it, but because he embodied it. There were no new fights, no new power struggles. Even the guards noticed. Officer Durant leaned on the railing one afternoon, watching the yard below. "Funny," he muttered. "Took 10 years of fists to keep them in line. He did it in 10 seconds. His partner nodded. Sometimes real strength ain't loud. Tank? He spent most of his time in the infirmary now. Broken ribs, fractured pride, and a silence of his own. Rico was nowhere to be seen. The chain had dissolved overnight. But Marcus folded laundry, quietly, gently, the same way he always had. One afternoon, a younger inmate approached him, shaky, nervous, face still new to the system. "I heard what you did," he said, voice barely above a whisper. Marcus didn't look up. "I ain't asking for protection," the kid added. "Just, how do you stay calm like that? How do you not lose your mind in here?" Marcus paused, then set down a towel. His voice was soft but steady. "You master the storm inside," he said, "or it masters you." The kid nodded slowly, like he'd been handed a key. And in that moment, Marcus Lee, the man they once mocked, beat, underestimated, became something more than a fighter. He became a symbol, not of violence, but of resilience, of balance, of a man who'd seen the worst of the world and chose not to become it. And as the sun dipped behind the cold, grey walls of Green Rock Penitentiary, casting long shadows across the yard, Marcus sat beneath them and still steady at peace, because true strength isn't about how many you can knock down. It's about how many you choose not to. And if this story struck something inside you, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or silenced, tell us in the comments. What would you have done in Marcus's place? Because in a world full of noise, sometimes the strongest voice is the one that doesn't need to scream,